I guess.
Recording in progress.
We'll see.
All right, welcome to Wellfleet Planning Board. Open this meeting. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jerry.
How are you? I'm assuming, I don't know, because I came here a minute over with some. Has everybody met our new member, Bob Wagner?
So, yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right, anything under open session, public comment? Seeing none? Yeah, I'm sorry, Al?
Due to the seasonal communities designation, we have to enact a number of zoning bylaw changes, and I'm wondering if it would be too hasty to get those on for the fall town meeting. I think that a number of them could be beneficial to people who might be building in Wellfleet, and we might want to get those changed as soon as possible, seeing as that we have to anyway.
All right. I don't think there's enough time, number one, but number two, Beth?
I agree with Al. Can you hear me?
No,
You're not on.
you're not on.
This one is working. Yeah.
I agree with Al. I actually was going to bring this up. I the ADU and the seasonal communities, I would request.
You're still not on.
that-
Yeah, you're still not on the mic.
He turned all of them except us.
Hey, Bob.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, but you haven't
Okay.
missed anything.
So I agree with Al that I do think this is something that should go forward for the fall town meeting. My request would be that the planning board put it on the agenda for the mid-April meeting.
What meeting? August.
meeting?
You mean
I'm
August.
sorry, mid-August.
Yeah.
So it would be probably August 19th. So I will work on a draft for ADU and seasonal and send that out to you all through Chulani. And then I would request that that be on the agenda for August 19th for a discussion with the planning board and then potentially a public meeting in September so it can go forward for fall town meeting in October.
All right,
It's up to you,
question.
Jerry.
Thank you. Question. ADU is Mass General Law. It's already in effect, regardless of whether we voted in or out. We can't vote it out.
If that's a question, it is in effect.
Right,
Correct.
okay. Even though it's not on our books, it's in effect. So is our current ADU bylaw. So right now, we have two ADU bylaws. Ours is larger than the state's. That's why I really haven't rushed into it, because it's already law. And we have one in effect by right. Seasonal community. Does that follow, clarification for myself and everybody, does that follow the same as the ADU if we've accepted, which we have, the seasonal designation? Is there anything in there that we have to adopt or tweak, or is it already law since we adopted seasonal community?
So that's a question to me.
Yes.
So the answer is, we do need to, under the regulations for seasonal communities, we do need to amend the zoning in order to adopt certain provisions that are in line with the seasonal communities. So we do need to do that, yes.
Are
The town
those-
does need to do that,
So those are zoning bylaws.
correct.
All right, I didn't put this on the agenda.
If I may add to that,
Yes.
we do technically have 2 years from the adoption from the state to bring our zoning bylaws in accordance with the seasonal communities designation. So that would be February of '28 to bring that up to the state's standard. I think that it could be beneficial for people before that, though. So if we change our zoning bylaws before that deadline, we could effectively help more people create more housing for Wellfleet and the Outer Cape.
But spring of '27 would still be plenty of time.
Yeah, 6 months later, absolutely. There's the setbacks get a lot smaller. They go from what we have currently to 15 feet in every direction. It also decreases the length of frontage required for residential properties to 20 feet. So this could be fairly beneficial for people. We're trying to get housing. We're trying to build housing in Wellfleet. There's also the potential that we can request a waiver from the EOHLC from any portion of the seasonal communities designation. And there are some areas that I think that could be beneficial for Wellfleet if we requested waivers for particular things. But if we don't bring our bylaws up in accordance with what the state is mandating, then we will lose a number of other tools. Our seasonal communities designation will be revoked, and then we'll lose a number of tools that we would have otherwise. Not
Okay.
as a planning board or as looking at it from a zoning
From a zone
perspective, but from other perspectives, the numbers that they use to calculate what income housing and things like that. So there's a lot of beneficial aspects to that legislation that we definitely don't want to, the tools we don't want removed from our toolkit.
Okay. Beth? For example, the 20-foot frontage, 15 setback. Are we mandated to accept that, or can we change it?
I would have to actually look at the specifics. I think we can change it to be in line with what our local zoning is, but I don't want to answer that question until I've had a chance to actually specifically look at it.
Okay.
But I think this is an important discussion, and we do need to start having the discussion.
So it needs to go on an agenda.
It
There
does.
you go.
It
So
needs to go on an agenda. yes.
Beth Singer took the words out of my mouth. Then what I would suggest is that, yes, Beth, see if you can attempt to get a quick draft for the August meeting. What I'm going to preface that with is, at least we'll have a draft in front of us to look at. I have a suspicion, and it may be my own suspicion, but when we start stepping into 15-foot setbacks and 20-foot frontages, I think this board has really got to beat that up to find out if we really want to go there. That is a tremendous change from what our zoning is at the present time. And it can change neighborhoods very, very quickly. Especially if we're working on the new cluster that gives us the ability to make, on the special permit, some of those changes, but at least coming for a special permit. So let's start the process. Let's get something on to the planning board members for the August meeting. And I think with that in front of us, we can then determine how fast we have to go. I'm sure, no, I would like to think that since it's been accepted by town meeting that we are a seasonal community, that if I ask the question to the TA to get it on to the spring town meeting, because he's kind of left that open. If there's something imperative that needs to be done, he doesn't want to see a lot of articles in the spring meeting, but that would be a bylaw that I think he would allow to get on in the spring town meeting.
The spring or the fall?
Fall. No, spring. So if we're looking at it, and I can get to him and tell him that we're looking at this, but really we'd like time to get it on the spring town meeting, and the annual town meeting, I think I can get a nod from him to say yes. I would hope I could. That would give us that extra 6 months to beat it up. Is that a satisfactory start for you and other members? I'm going to go to Al first.
Yeah, absolutely. We do need just to start the conversation as soon as possible.
Okay. Bonnie?
So I'm confused because if we, have this, beat it up, if we have this discussion and we don't come to, and whatever we want needs some kind of, and maybe this is a question for Beth,
Keep going.
If what we want needs some kind of waiver from some authority, I don't know who, then how likely, what is the process of getting that waiver and how long does it take?
Well, I think what Beth is saying is she needs to look at it if it's not perfectly clear, I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but if it's not perfectly clear that we can waive it or change it, then she would have to probably go up the next rung in the ladder to find out what we can do. But I think it's going to be plain in the document at some point whether or not we can vary that 15-foot setback all the way around, front, side, and rear, as well as 20-foot frontage. 20-foot frontage, when the fire department wants a 14-foot clear for a driveway, if you've got any kind of topography, makes it very difficult. So it does create some problems in my mind. 20-foot frontage is basically going to similar zoning that Eastham has, is what we call, what's the word?
Panhandle?
Panhandle, there you go. Panhandle lots, which we really have frowned on in Wellfleet. Panhandle lot is a 20-foot access, 30-foot access, could be 5 feet, could be 20 feet, could be 100 feet, and then you form your building box with the additional acreage at the end of it.
Oh. So there's a limit to how many of those you could have together.
You can get more of them together.
Get way more together.
That's why some towns do it, so especially when you get to cul-de-sacs, and that's when with the big circle, a lot of panhandles come off of that because you've got extra acreage at the end.
Because it's.
I could tell you to go
Got
pull
it.
your recent subdivisions that got turned down, and one of them has a very similar type of that kind of situation. So let's work forward, let's move forward. And what have we scheduled? And I know Chris wants to get going, but have we scheduled the August meeting?
We have August 5th and 19th.
It's what?
5th and 19th.
Okay, usually we would go to one meeting
In
in
August.
August.
Yeah.
It's the
So
19th then.
19th? Okay.
Okay, so not the 5th.
No, unless, and we'll get to that, we'll get to that at the end of the meeting, when I get to next meeting, point 5, and find out whether or not you want to schedule two, have one early and one later, or you want to have one in the middle, see how everybody goes. Okay? Anything else? Open session? All right. Cluster residential development, continued discussions. You have a draft in front of you on, that Beth has prepared, kind of updating what we have. Chris has asked if he could make a couple comments on this. He had sent out, did that get forwarded to everybody or just me? Just me? Okay. He had, Jelani forwarded me his red penciling of what he's going to speak tonight on, but it came in way too late. It came in today or yesterday. So therefore, you do not have it in front of you, and I was not going to put that or have it dropped off today, but I did tell Chris, as you saw me talking to him earlier, that I felt that during this discussion, since he has to leave, that he could at least bring those ideas forward, so when we're talking about this, at least you have it to think about. Everybody okay with that? All right. Chris?
Thank you very much. Is this working?
Yes.
Okay. As the chair said, my name is Chris Durbin.
I was just going to ask you to identify yourself.
Oh, okay. And I am both the chair of the Wellfleet Affordable Housing Trust, and I, through an LLC, own a parcel of land that I think may be the first one to use the cluster development as revised. I am here tonight in the capacity as the manager of the LLC that owns this piece of land, not as the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. I guess I first want to say I've seen the changes that you have in front of you, and I'm supportive of all of them. I think it would probably be better to keep it at 25% open space versus 30%, because on some lots that can mean the difference between an additional house or not, but if the board thinks it should go to 30%, then it should go to 30%. I would like to suggest 2 additional categories of changes, and these categories would help allow on a cluster the same thing that I have done twice in town, which is to use a community land trust model to separate the structures on a piece of land from the land itself. And it makes buying the structure, the house or the ADU or both, much less expensive because you don't buy the land. So I did this on Pole Dyke and on Whitetail, bought a piece of land on Pole Dyke, built a house and ADU on it, donated the land to the Affordable Housing Trust, and a local resident bought the house and rented the ADU to another local resident. On Whitetail, it was a pre-existing house, same thing, donated the land to the Wellfleet Affordable Housing Trust, and a local shell fisherman owns the house, and another local resident is renting the ADU that is part of that structure. Both of those, the Affordable Housing Trust has a 99-year ground lease that they provide to the homeowner. So the homeowner has full use of the land as if they own it. They just don't own it, and most importantly, they didn't have to pay for it. And so it ends up making property, homes, housing much less expensive using this model. As I said, I own a piece of land that is under 15 acres, but above 2 acres. So it would fit in what you're contemplating as that revision to the cluster bylaw. But what I would like to do is be able to use the same community land trust model, whereby the land would not be subdivided into lots, because again, the homeowners aren't going to own the land. So the Wellfleet Affordable Housing Trust would just own all the acreage in this property, and instead the homeowners would be granted exclusive use areas, which are used in real estate all the time. And so, for example, where in the current bylaw it says minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet, I would like that to say minimum lot or exclusive use area of 10,000 square feet. No change in the dimensions whatsoever. When it says maximum 15% lot coverage, I would like that to say maximum 15% lot or exclusive use area coverage. So no changes to the density on the property. It would just be a change that would allow for exclusive use areas rather than a subdivision into lots. The second thing that I think would be very helpful, especially, and really my suggestion would be only when being used in a community land trust model where the land's going to be owned by an entity that by its design is trying to find affordable or attainable housing, I would like the revised cluster bylaw to very clearly signify that it supersedes the affordable, flexible residential design bylaw, section 6.6A, as well as supersede 6.28, the provisions to encourage the development of affordable dwellings in Wellfleet. To me, as I read the cluster bylaw plus those other two bylaws, it's confusing as to which one has priority. And I think for a developer who is seeking to use the cluster bylaw for the express purpose of affordable or attainable housing, I think it should be clear in the cluster bylaw that the cluster bylaw supersedes those two bylaws. I don't know if that's legal or not. You guys will figure that out, but I think it would provide clarity for the cluster bylaw. So again, I think what you have in front of you, from my perspective, would work just great for the piece of property I want to develop, but for those two changes, allow for exclusive use areas versus subdivision into individual lots, but those would have the same minimum size and maximum coverage as the existing bylaw that you're looking at, and then allow for this bylaw to supersede the other two that are attempting to create affordable housing in Wellfleet, because in this case, when using a community land trust model, that's the whole purpose of what that model does.
I have a question for Chris. Chris, thank you. That's an interest. Well, I love the projects you've worked on already, and using the community land trust model is a terrific way to move forward, particularly for attainable housing. But I'm curious why, in your example that you provide, the entire area would be owned as a block by the housing trust. What's the difference if the housing trust owned 8 10,000 square foot or 5 10,000 square foot lots as opposed to one 50,000 square foot lot?
Yeah, probably just a lot more expense. Additional title searches, you'd have to have clear title now for 8 lots or 10 lots, however many it's going to be divided into.
And more survey.
More survey work. I think it also would convey more rights, quite frankly, to the homeowner than they have. The lease would be clear that they don't own that lot as part of the land. But because the cluster bylaw already requires that the open space, that 30% in the revised version you're looking at, be conveyed to an entity acceptable to the planning board, in this case, everything would be conveyed at one time, both the exclusive use areas and that open space, that 30% open space.
Wouldn't you still have to designate what area of that parcel is the area that the homeowner can use for their purposes, so that you're not running into fence line issues and things like that, where someone starts spreading themselves out a bit?
I think so. As I thought about it, I think the developer would come to this board with a plan that would delineate exclusive use areas. They would look just like lot lines from your perspective. They just wouldn't be legal lot lines. We would not subdivide, at least in my suggestion, we would not subdivide the property because of the complexities that I mentioned. So there would be staked out exclusive use areas so that people aren't complaining that, your garden's in my exclusive use area. You'd try to make that clear, and it would be made clear to this board when the application came before the board.
Al?
I don't have so much of a question. If I understand you correctly, I think I support your recommended changes. A couple of the notes that I jotted down when I looked at here was, what's the state's requirement septics for such developments? It doesn't really, this is not, this bylaw is not addressing septics whatsoever. It's not mentioned in there at all. And I'm just wondering, legally speaking, from the state's perspective, what's going to be required for wastewater treatment and just dealing with wastewater on developments such as these. And it really leads into a much broader question that I had, because just to use the 80,000 square foot number, the minimum, we require 30% of that be reserved for open space. So does that mean that that would be 24,000 feet would have to be open space? So does that mean that 56,000 feet is now what is the buildable measurement for upland, effectively 5 bedrooms or 5 single dwelling units? Or are we going to count the whole 80,000 and thereby making it 8-bedroom units? I just think there's a lot of questions like that. I think they tie in fairly directly to what Mr. Durbin's trying to get to here, in the sense that if a developer chose to use a communal septic system or a communal wastewater system of some sort, can that free up land, and how does that tie in with this legislation or with these bylaw changes? If this is intended to create cluster developments where ultimately everything is going to be privately owned, each unit in that cluster is going to be privately owned, that's one thing. But if it's going to be owned and operated by a larger body that's just going to be granting, affordable housing or attainable housing, I don't really see some tools that might be useful for those said developers to, it's just not clear enough, in my opinion, of what's possible. I think it's a great start. I think there's a couple of things that need to be shaped up. And then just lastly, still though it's not quite on the issue directly, but I don't see anything in here about occupancy restrictions of any sorts. And although I think this is a great idea to try to get more housing in Wellfleet, I do think it would be a shame if somebody used these bylaws to make a little neighborhood of short-term rentals. I don't think that's what we're trying to accomplish, but I'll let the board determine
Can I address the second one real quickly? Because the ground lease structure by deed requires a perpetual year-round restriction, both for the home and the ADU. So if using the community land trust model, there's no short-term rentals allowed.
I'm assuming not using the community land trust model. This
okay.
bylaw would regulate anybody with 2 acres or more who wanted to build a cluster development. So I think that we would want to include that language in there. I'm not necessarily eliminating the possibility for short-term rental units, because I think that could be a great way that the owner could fund building a cluster development like this, but have some ratio of required year-round occupancy, maybe allowances for seasonal workers, and also, some very specific language about using cluster developments for short-term rentals.
Okay, to answer a couple of your questions. When you do a cluster development, the cluster development, you have the option of, one, doing a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet or more. Doesn't have to be 10,000. It can be larger. The developer chooses to do that. It's like a subdivision, only you're giving up to 25%. But it's a special permit, which we can attach criteria to. As far as the septic goes, the entire parcel is considered the 80,000 square feet. For example, using at that 80,000, that's 8 bedrooms. You add in the 25% of open space, because your septic still leaches out in that area. It's non-buildable, but it can be counted towards your 10,000 square feet per bedroom. So if you were to do a 10,000 square foot cluster on 80,000 square feet of land, you could do minus 25%, 16, 15, 65, you could do 6 11,000 square foot lots, 10,000 each. Or you could do a condominium on the remaining 65%, 75%, 25% open, 75% owned by the condominium, and you would have what we call, as Chris said, exclusive areas. All the cottage colonies, for example, that have gone condo, there were cottage colonies that were on 1 acre or 3/4 of an acre, had 10 units on them. They sold them as condos, but each one of those had what we call exclusive areas around them that each individual owner could use. So Does that help you with a few of those questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone, Bonnie?
So that brings a confusion I had about language, and I seem to remember this from before, that there is a reference to dwelling units, but the minimum distance between dwelling units, but I believe in a cluster, a dwelling unit could have two households in it, or is a dwelling unit a household? Like, does a dwelling unit mean a single-family house, or could a dwelling unit be a townhouse?
Well, remember, in some of the discussion, we were saying that one of the things with the new proposed zoning bylaw for cluster is it's rather than a grid subdivision like the previous cluster or any normal subdivision that we do, which only allows single family. You could do a duplex, you could do a townhouse, you could do, the handcuffs are off, you could do, if you had 6 units that you could build, you could do 6 one-bedroom units.
Right.
You could do 2 3-bedroom units or 4 or 3 2-bedroom units. 2 of those could be a duplex and 1 could be a single family.
Right. So I think the language that allows that is in the very last thing under decision, where it says the development shall accommodate variation in the size of dwelling units, whether freestanding or within a larger structure.
Yes.
That's the language that.
That's the language that you would be looking
So
at.
that's crucial. Okay.
I have a question then,
Yes, Bob.
clarification. So I'm glad to hear that, but do we need to then reconcile the cluster zoning with the zoning, on the zoning map, the zoning districts that don't allow for multifamily housing? Because we would be allowing multifamily housing, potentially duplexes, for example, in a cluster development that might be in the R1 or the R2 zone. So just to make sure that there's clarity there. Because if you look at the use table, and maybe if there's an asterisk saying, except in the instance of cluster development, it would suggest that you couldn't do a duplex, for example, in some of the zones. So that's just one question I have. And then the other one was on the open space, the 30% open space. I'm assuming that that's 30% of the lot that otherwise couldn't get developed anyway because of wetlands. In other words, that's not counted?
That could actually, let's say, it doesn't necessarily have to be wetland. Let's say it's all 100% upland.
Okay.
What we're saying is, right now, on a subdivision, a residential across the board, unless it's a different zone, but 90% of Wellfleet is residential R1. If you do a subdivision in the R1 district, which is 30,000 square feet, that 30,000 square feet is for that one unit. Okay. The benefit, and this came up and somebody asked me a question about it, is, okay, it's a special permit. What happens if somebody walked in and wanted to do 2 3-bedroom houses? My first reaction was, well, that's not diversity. And then then I started thinking about it and I said, well, wait a minute. We just picked up 25 or 30%, depending on what we decide on green space, reduced those lot sizes, but gave 25% as open space.
Right. I guess what I wanted
So it took it away from the house.
Yeah.
Put it away.
I guess maybe I was not clear enough. If let's make it simple on me anyway. So you have 10 acres. Okay, let's just say 10 acres. So 3 acres of that would be your 30% set-aside open space.
Yes.
But what if of that 10 acres, you couldn't develop a certain portion of it to begin with because there's wetlands and then you've got uplands? But is there a steep slope issue at all in Wellfleet where, some steep slopes are not allowed for development? So in other words, areas that otherwise would have to be taken out regardless. So your 30% is in addition to the areas that are undevelopable because of slope or?
I have a suspicion what a developer would do. And remember, this is a special permit.
Right.
This is not by right.
Yeah.
Subdivision is by right. This is by special permit. Gives us the jurisdiction to make those kind of decisions. I would imagine that if somebody has a 10-acre parcel and they've got 45% wetland, they would probably want to do a cluster. They could turn around and still take all 45% of the wetland, put it into conservation, because that's not going towards, and then they would lose 45% instead of 25%. If it were very steep slopes, we would have, and they took 25% of all the upland and took the bad land of bad slopes, we would have the ability to say, no, that's not in what we want. We're not really kind of restricted. We've got to be careful, but it gives us a heck of a lot more latitude. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
What I'm not sure of, and I was going to Beth, is I think we might have to do something in the cluster, since it's a special permit, allowing us to grant duplexes, triplex, or single family because of the district situation. Or would that be automatic in a special permit?
It would come under the jurisdiction of a special permit, but I do want to look at that a little more closely before I give a definitive answer.
Okay, thank you. Good question. Al?
I just wanted to make a note that 235, 6.6, Section E, open spaces shall be preserved for recreation or conservation and shall include not less than 30% of the upland within the cluster development. So just to be very clear about that. But I fear that I made a significant digression from Mr. Durbin, and I did have one final question for you. And I want to be conscientious of your time because I know you have some place to be. Could you, you have a copy of that cluster development, or you've seen this, or do you have a copy of it?
I've seen the version that I think you had without my changes. Yes.
Well, I'm just wondering if there's a way, because I'd like to take your input for that, the recommendations that you made. So if there's a way that we could get Mr. Durbin an electronic copy so that he can draft in what exactly it is he wants to change, and then we could have a look at that.
He has.
That's been done.
Okay.
That's the thing that the chair got that the rest of you didn't get because I was late in doing it.
Great.
Al, that will be distributed.
Next meeting.
Well, no, I can distribute it at any time. I didn't want it distributed prior to because it's information that came in after the cutoff on this.
I understand.
So that is already been submitted. Jelani has it. He will send that out accordingly.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Durbin.
Beth, anything?
I like this, and I have no reason to say that those recommended changes about exclusive use, I don't see a reason not to do that. So I'm supportive of this and those adjustments.
Question I have is 99-year lease.
It's like the
Is the individual that owns just above the foundation buys the house for $200,000, 2 years later sells it for $300,000, does the entire 300 go to the individual, or does a portion go to the trust that owns the land and a part to the individual that owns it?
Yes, so in that example, actually, the leases is structured for Poledyke and Whitetail, and I would, I'm going to recuse myself from any trust deliberations about this. It comes before the trust, but I would expect the trust would want the same lease structure that we use in those two properties. And what that one does is it does two things. First, it limits the price appreciation on the structure to the CPI each year. So your 200 won't go to 300 in 2 years unless, I don't know, oil spikes to $500 or something, right? So it'll be limited to CPI per year, and half of that gain is shared with the trust. Half of it goes to the homeowner. So if CPI averages 3% a year, the homeowner gets 1.5% a year of appreciation, and the trust gets 1.5% a year of appreciation.
So it,
My problem with that right off the bat is that, at least my view on what we're doing, is to try and encourage, since the town hasn't so far, I'm not throwing stones here, so far has not been able to create, we haven't been able to create a lot of affordable housing, workforce housing, get the word affordable out of it, workforce housing. That seems to me a large figure, and when that person goes to sell, unless they go and buy something in a similar kind of cluster, they're not going to be able to buy in Wellfleet again, because there's not enough appreciation for them to move. I think what my mind is looking at in this cluster is that we are, in essence, beginning to try and get through this cluster a diversification of 1, 2, 3-bedroom houses, some duplexes, let them build some equity. It's sort of a starter position in my mind. Some will stay there forever. Others might decide to move on, move up. I can tell you, I moved my family since 1975 when I came here 5 different times. Moved up every single time to something different.
Yeah.
So I'm more inclined in my own mind to see as much as possible of, once this cluster is done, we grant the special permit, that the benefits do go to those individuals so they can, like a 1-bedroom, for example. They buy the 1-bedroom because they're single, married, whatever, no kids, but all of a sudden the kids start coming in, they need to go into a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, they need to sell that. If they're losing 50% of their equity, they're not going to be able to move and stay in Wellfleet, in my mind. So I'm
I have a response, but
stressing with
I
that.
see other hands up. I'll defer to you on who speaks next.
No, if you don't,
Go ahead.
I can speak to the rationale for the.
let's speak to the rationale first,
Yeah,
and then.
the rationale, I think the choice that you're offering is somebody who either makes a lot of money on the gain on their house or not after they have purchased their first home. That is not what this is about. This is about enabling people to actually purchase a home who otherwise wouldn't be able to, because we're taking the cost of the land out of the cost of the home. And so really what it's sort of this model between renting and market-based owning, which I think is what your model is. Where renting, of course, you have no equity at all.
Exactly.
Market-based, you have to come up with a very large amount of money to even get that starter home in Wellfleet today. And I think for most workforce housing, I think the studies have shown it just doesn't exist in town anymore because the land is so expensive. At $600,000 an acre or $300,000 an acre, pick your number, it's just too expensive. And so what this does is it lowers the entry price, enabling more individuals to actually afford their first home, but it does not provide them that sort of lifetime piggy bank that we typically think of as real estate. That's not what this model's about. This model's about getting people into stable, year-round housing for the first time when they otherwise wouldn't be able to do it.
Okay, so would it be feasible with your program versus the way we've technically done it in the draft form, could we not consider putting your version and our version as two specifically different zoning bylaws? So a developer has the right to choose which one they choose.
Yeah, the
to work
edits, I think it's a good idea. The edits that I suggested and that the board will have basically says that the cluster bylaw is as it is written unless you're going to do workforce housing. So only if you're going to do workforce housing, which by workforce housing, I mean the community land trust model, shared appreciation, all the things we're talking about, then the lease model comes in that I've described. Otherwise, the cluster bylaw, if you're not going to use exclusive use areas, if you're not going to donate the land to a qualified organization as is defined in the edits that I've sent, if you're not going to have shared appreciation, if you're not going to insist that the rent is at the HUD fair market rents or below, if you're not going to insist that the homeowner is at an AMI or below maximum level, we're trying to get the trust up to 250%, which town meeting approved. All of those things are in the edits that I gave you. A commercial for-profit developer can just ignore them and just basically say, I'm going to subdivide into lots. I'm going to ignore this whole exclusive use area thing. I don't have a lease. I'm going to sell the land with the structure. The bylaw as written is still applicable.
So would it be one bylaw with the word "or" in it? It's either this or?
Yeah, it's the
A
existing
exclusive
bylaw with a
use?
provision that also allows, if it's going to be a qualified organization that will own the land, the use of exclusive use areas,
That's how I interpret it.
et cetera, et cetera. And even the...
So it's a
even the-
choice.
It's a choice. Even the exemption or the superiority of this bylaw over the affordable flexible residential design and the more recent one approved at town meeting only applies for a developer who's going to donate the land and use the community land trust model. If a developer otherwise comes in and uses a for-profit cluster development model, I think they're going to be subject to the, whatever it is, 6.22, the most recent bylaw, where for every X number of units, you have to have a unit that is affordable.
No, we've exempted it.
Oh, okay.
In this bylaw, in this draft, what we built into it is, instead of a lot square footage, we've gone by number of bedrooms. So, in fact, again, on an 80,000 square foot lot, you could only get 2 lots, 30,000 square foot lots. They would be 35,000 square feet. Grid subdivision. You'd have to put in, if it's larger, you'd have to put in a 40-foot road. It'd have to be 30,000 square foot lots, no open space. This could work for any developer, for example, that says, all right, I can move the lot sizes down, I can cut the roads down in half, I give up 25% of green space, but now I can use, if I wanted to, I could use my 8 bedrooms that I'm qualified for under that same 80,000 square feet. I could build 8 single-family houses. So you just created, if they choose to do so, 8 single-family houses that, in essence, a single-family house brings the value way down because it's only worth X amount of money. So we're getting that diversity, and it also applies to a developer because you're saying, all right, my clients don't even want 30,000 square feet. They're very happy with 20,000 square feet. Give the rest open space, and we have diversity and protection to the neighbors. So I think it needs a little bit more, at least in my mind, a little bit more in-depth. I don't see a major problem with splitting it into 2, but I think it probably could be merged.
Yeah,
But
I agree. I think it can be in the same bylaw. And however a particular developer decides to set it up, that's up to them if that opportunity exists in the bylaw to do what Mr. Durbin is referring to versus, say, a private developer or someone who is a private developer but has no interest in necessarily workforce housing, as specifically outlined by Mr. Durbin. So I think it can be merged into one bylaw easily, because there could be, if we do someday have a true community land trust here in Wellfleet, they may choose to do 10-acre individual lots and not do the exclusive use sample as you've done, which many community land trusts do around the state, where they actually have the individual lot is assigned to that house, and it is subdivided off, just like it would in a traditional cluster development. So I think the either-or works, and you may have an issue with how they figure out what the upside is, but the person who's buying into that has agreed that this works for me, and it's important for me, I want to do it this way, as opposed to not being able to have that opportunity at all.
That's right.
So.
And it is special, and it still is a special permit.
Yeah.
Right. Did you have? If you did you? If you do, and then I'm going to go to Bonnie, because she had a question
Do
too.
Bonnie first, because Bonnie was way before me there.
Okay.
Well, I like this idea a lot. I mean, because, let's face it, we all know that there's no grant money for attainable housing, for workforce housing. And so this is kind of a way to increase the supply of that, which is really important for Wellfleet. So I want to go back to something that was mentioned earlier about year-round versus short-term rental, because there is no mention of that I read in this bylaw. Did I miss it? Or I think that...
No, there's nothing in there.
So
There's nothing in the cluster as it stands either.
yeah.
So this is a model off the cluster, reducing lot size, total lot from 15 acres down to 80,000 square feet.
So there's nothing stopping a developer from creating a cluster that is all short-term rental?
Special permit,
Special
Oh,
permit.
that's not.
Special permit.
oh, but if there's nothing in the language of the bylaw that allows the planning board to make that a reason for denial, then they can contest it in court, right?
Well,
Go.
Bonnie's question.
Could we, because it's a special permit, within the special permit, granting the developer the right to use the bedroom situation with the cluster, could we restrict it to year-round?
You can put that in as a condition, yes.
See, that's the great thing about a special permit.
Right,
That's-
we need to add that.
Yeah. No, you don't even need to add it. It's a condition under your special permit.
We won't grant you a permit
What?
unless,
We could put it in there, Bonnie, to answer your question. If you wanted clarity,
there's no reason not to.
Well, I would be cautious of what might happen given time. How long would that deed restriction be in effect for? Would it sunset after 30 years like any other deed
No.
restriction in the state?
difference, Al. If you have a covenant, personal covenant on record, that expires unless you put it, if you put in 99 years, you're okay. What happened with the 30 years is if we had a covenant that we thought was in perpetuity, that did not have an ending date, the court had mandated that it expires in 30 years. If in fact you have a special permit, that goes with the land perpetuity.
Well, I just don't see a reason why we couldn't add some language. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. What might be a good reason why we couldn't just add the language stipulating exactly what sort of use, what sort of residency requirements there would be?
We could.
What's the downside?
There's no,
It can be in the objective.
well, we got to be, okay.
And decision.
It's got to be, we've got to be careful because from what I see, I'll put my past development, is if you've got a developer that says, wait a minute, I don't want to do these 40-foot layout roads. I like this bylaw. I'm willing to go for the special permit. I like the diversification. I'm going to sell them at retail value and use the bedrooms. Once they use the bedrooms, and they use them all for principal residences, they can't do an ADU because their bedroom space is already gone.
Yeah.
So when they came in for a special permit, they would have to say to us, I want to build, let's say, for example, they come in on a 80,000 square foot lot, give up 25%, they can use 8 bedrooms. They could do 2 3-bedroom houses, and they each could then do a 1-bedroom ADU because they haven't used up the bedrooms. If in turn they did 6 1-bedroom houses, there is no more area to use the 10,000 square feet. It's gone, so they couldn't build an ADU.
Yeah, but what would the downside be to just including language in this draft that would stipulate that cluster developments, a certain portion of them would need to be used for year-round housing? Or specifically exclude seasonal or short-term rentals to some fraction of the cluster?
Well, I guess in my mind, and, again, board members are chiming in here, I got to get to this side, but in my mind, if a developer does not want to do the 40-foot layouts, lose that much land to the road layout, is willing to give up 25% of green space, reduce those lot sizes to 20,000 square feet or 25, and he still wants to do a grid, or he or she wants to do a grid subdivision, to me, that's still a win proposition for the town of Wellfleet, because we just picked up 25% of open space, and the roads got reduced in size. So it can be a benefit for both to go away from grid subdivisions into more clusters. That's where I'm kind of trying to read some of this, at least from my experience, is a lot of times we're forced into a grid subdivision. We may want to do something else. We still want the ability to sell at market value, but we're willing to give up open space. I think the more open space we pick up and not give it to one individual, the better off the town of Wellfleet is. We don't have to grant the permit, but at least it's an option for that developer to come in and say, okay, I can try it. If we turn them down, they always have the right to come back with a grid subdivision, fait accompli.
But Jerry,
Yes.
like Sexton, once the developer builds and the units are sold, they have nothing to do with it being rented by the week.
That is correct.
So we can't, no matter what we do here, we can't guarantee that that's not the end result.
And just to,
Without language.
It won't help to have the language
You
because
can
the language is for the developer.
Right.
It's not for the buyer.
Oh, it follows through. Okay, the problem is, it rests on him. The building is, in case you don't know, the building inspector.
Oh. Wow.
See, we have a working relationship, the building inspector and I, for a long time. So I forgot to introduce Justin to the board. That is the building inspector. So that would fall theoretically either to him or Board of Health, to whatever department, to say, okay, you've got a deed restriction that says that you can't rent. Your neighbor called up and says you got people going in there every other week. That's not by, probably would end up in court, probably.
well, could I just
Yes.
explain my fears or my skepticism of potentially here? I'm not so much concerned with the open space. I think Wellfleet has a lot of open space already. I think we're much more critically in need of housing. And this looks to me, if I'm putting on my developer hat, this looks to me like a very lucrative way to get a lot more seasonal rent or short-term rentals onto a smaller piece of property. You can do 8 units on 2 acres, and I don't think that that's the intention of what this bylaw should be. I think if we're following the objective to meet housing needs, I don't see why those housing needs should be short-term rentals.
Yes.
Justin wants to speak.
Justin? I haven't forgotten you too.
Justin Post, building inspector. Can the word domicile be added like we do for the shellfish type regs? Can the word domicile be added for, in the language, sort of like the shellfisherman? I don't know, I'm just asking.
I don't understand.
Well, the word domicile, as far as, Al, you want to go, you want me to, you want to?
Well,
Go ahead.
domicile would be one legal mechanism of trying to ensure that it's an actual domicile, not a
You live there.
for-profit, short-term
Oh.
rental.
In other words, in order to get a shellfish license or a grant in the town of Wellfleet, you must have a domicile in
Right.
Wellfleet.
Right.
Now, it's being beat out a little bit because somebody can have two houses in Wellfleet, they call one a domicile, and then they rent out the other one. So, someone could come in on a 80,000 square foot lot, build a single-family house, and right now, with our bylaw, by right, they could build 5 one-bedroom ADUs and rent them out on a year-round basis.
By this bylaw, you mean?
No,
No, the
by right,
existing.
right now.
This is special permit.
Right. But just,
No,
I'm sorry.
Bonnie? No, because I can tell when there's a question in her head.
I'm totally confused
Okay.
now.
By right now, if somebody has an 80,000 square foot lot,
Oh, 80,000, yes.
or if they have an acre, they could build a 2-bedroom house. They got 2 bedrooms left. They could build 2 one-bedroom ADUs. The state says you could build the first one and then by special permit, the second one. So there is a mechanism right now, even though it's not by special permit, it's by right. That's why we still need to take into consideration when we talk about ADUs, as what do we want to do with the present bylaw.
So my source of confusion is that I thought, and maybe my memory's faulty, that our IDU bylaw does specify year-round domicile.
It does, but again, no, the state does. We say you need to rent it on a year. Do we still have in there year-round? I think we do.
Yeah.
But now you've got a situation, back to what Beth said, is you've got enforcement problems. And
Well-
enforcement problems are a bear. Just ask Justin. All right, I got to go to Bob.
So, my question, first off, is what?
Oh,
what does-
microphone.
What does funding look like for somebody who wants to buy into one of these affordable units? How does a bank look at that?
Which type?
Yeah.
What Chris is saying?
Yeah.
Okay, what Chris is saying? He's going to have to answer that.
Yeah, it's all Fannie and Freddie approved, a community land trust model, and lenders on Cape have issued a mortgage to the owners of Poldike, as an example. So it works just fine. There's collateral in the structure, and the purchase price is lowered because they're not paying for the land, and so they put a down payment down, and the mortgage is just on the value of the structure, and that works just fine for lenders.
Out of curiosity, if you have the answer, you're saying 50/50, purchase price, selling price, 50% goes to the owner, 50% to the owner of the land, 50% to the owner of the structure. Habitat, do you know what that split is?
Oh, I think it's much more for Habitat. I think most of the community land trusts are more of a 75-25 to the holder of the lease. The homeowner typically gets less. We made it a little more homeowner-friendly in the Poldike and Whitetail situations to make it 50/50.
So you think that the Habitat, if they bought it for 200, sell it for 300, that $100,000 profit, 75 goes back to Habitat and 25 would go to the owner? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but obviously I'm not a habitat expert. I just know I know typical land trust models, much more of the gain goes to the land trust
Okay.
than to the homeowner.
That answer your question?
And again, it's the trade, as Mr. Wagner said, it's the trade the homeowner says. They said, I never thought I'd even make $1 on real estate. Now you're going to let me make 50 cents. I'd prefer 50 cents to zero, basically is the trade that I think, well, we have two examples. It's not a lot, but I do think that's the mindset.
Okay. Bob, any questions?
Sure, a couple of questions.
Come on, I know you're going to have a question.
Do you have an idea of the percentage of the lower price because they're not buying the land? Like, is it 25% less or 30? Or any idea?
I think it's probably in that range. Again, we've done 2 of them, and the lots are, as you know, lots are idiosyncratic. It depends on where it is, if you've got a water view or not, and how close it is to this or that. So the land value varies by the quality of the land. And then, at least for these 2, it's basically been sold at the cost of construction. So the builder made money, but not the developer in this case. But I think it's like a 25 or 30% reduction.
Okay. The second question is, I like the idea, and I'm very much for it, because what I think it starts to do is it starts to rein in rampant speculation in housing costs. And if the homeowner goes in, Jerry mentioned the idea of the starter home. Well, I think in my generation, there was such a thing as a starter home, and as your salary increased, your buying power increased, you could go up to the next house as your family grew. I think today that doesn't exist. I think there's such a disparity in prices, there is no middle ground anymore. So I think what your model does is that it says to the home buyer exactly that. I have an opportunity to buy a house. I don't know whether I'm going to stay in this house. I don't know what's going to happen to my family. Am I going to have children or no children? I don't know. But at least I'm in there. And if there is diversity in that development of 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 1-bedroom houses, someday someone in a 2-bedroom house or 3-bedroom house may sell their house. And the person can then, someone can get into that house. So I'm not so much worried about preventing, let's say, someone from moving up, as their economic status increases, because I don't think it'll ever increase enough to meet the way the house values are today, barring a major crash in home values, which may or may not happen. So I like your idea, and I think it should be as part of this cluster development, whether it's 2 separate zoning bylaws or, as Bob mentioned, merge.
Or an option.
I think we could figure out a way to do it, but I like your model.
I want to make one comment on the year-round restriction that you're looking to put on just I'll call it a for-profit cluster development.
Yeah, I don't think that we should do an absolute restriction on short-term rentals. I just think that if the point of this bylaw is to increase housing needs of the town, we don't want the cluster development to be entirely short-term rentals.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say the lease does require, not only the ADU by zoning bylaw and Wellfleet it has to be year-round, but our lease sort of is a belt and suspender on the existing bylaw, but the house also has to be year-round. So when used in a community land trust model, the bylaw will accomplish what you're looking for, which is no short-term rentals of either the home or the ADUs.
That the proposed changes that you have made would, because there's no language in here as it stands that would.
That change would only exist if the community land trust model is being used. It would not.
Right.
It would not ensure that a
So if it's
for-profit
not being
development-
used, then a developer could still develop a cluster development for seasonal or for short-term rentals. I will not mention it anymore, other than just to say I would like to see some language in this limiting the use of cluster developments for short-term rentals.
Yeah.
I think that we absolutely need to add that to the bylaw. I understand that we can do that through the special permit process, but I'm dubious as to how long that, legally, how does that hold up after that property gets sold from person to person to person?
Well, and more than that, the planning board is not a stable
Yeah.
organization. So as members change,
It's fairly unstable.
the interpretation of that could
Excuse my
also
laughter.
change.
Yes.
So language would be helpful.
Can I say just one more thing on that point, is the reason why I wanted this bylaw to supersede the other two affordable-related bylaws in town is because I actually thought that a developer who would go the traditional cluster development would still be subject to, for every 4 units, you got to put one affordable in. So that might be the other way to accomplish what you're seeking, is that the bylaw, that if you're going in a cluster, you're still subject to one of those other.
Absolutely, and I'd like to see it more inverted. I would, just to ballpark it, say that a quarter of the units in the cluster development might be used for short-term rentals, but I would say no more than a quarter. And that would only be possible, in my mind, if I was issuing the special permit, that would only be if there was a good number of units on there, in excess of 8 or 10 units.
Why even allow it?
Because I think that for the same reason that we were talking about waivers for the community. One of the ways that people have afforded to buy houses in this town for decades now is you buy a house and then you move out in the summertime and you rent it short term, and then you just put up with living in a trailer or living on a boat or living at your parents' house just for the summertime, and then you move back in the winter. And it's always been a way that young home buyers have been able to supplement their income and afford that house initially. So I don't think that a full exclusion is necessary, or if it would be entirely beneficial for the people that we want to help, or that I want to help with this bylaw. Did I make myself clear?
Could you, again, a lot of this comes down to enforcement. But would it be possible to say that X amount of those houses can be used by the principal owner, by the owner, for at least 9 months of the period, and rent for 3?
That would be great language. But that's the kind of language that I want to see.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave it over to Beth to research. Again, we're going to see a draft, see what we can do in that revised draft. Bob?
Under your model, would that not address Al's concerns about the short-term rentals? If people feel, I need that extra income, so I'm going to go live in a tent somewhere for 3 months in the summer, but because your model has already reduced the cost of purchasing that house, you have the requirement of their salary meeting the requirement of the AMI, could that possibly eliminate this need for a homeowner to have to rent out their house? So that short-term rental may not be necessary. Would that be possible, do you think?
Maybe. I don't know. It doesn't address it. It requires year-round occupancy. Enforcement obviously is still an issue with that, but it does require year-round occupancy. We didn't get into the economics, whether that was.
The initial purchase cost is, as you said, anywhere from 25 to 30% lower.
That's right.
But if I may, not every developer
Right.
is going to
He's
come
gonna
in the cluster and do it like Mr. Durbin has, or with another entity looking at a community land trust. So to Al's point, I think there are going to be some folks that are going to want to take advantage of this new cluster provision, and they're just going to be market rate houses, right? It's going to be whatever they can sell it for. And so therefore, the person who is trying to buy it maybe with the help of, parents or something like that, purchase it. But as Al was pointing out, then they rent it for that period of time during the summer where they can make more than twice their mortgage perhaps on a weekly basis for a month, and then come back in September or whatever. So, but I agree that 9 months, as you pointed out, or putting some language in there makes some sense, but it does come down to enforcement. It's like, that's,
Bonnie?
So just a question about the definition of year-round residency. does that definition exist anywhere in our bylaws? And does it specify a number of months?
I think in doing this, we would just have to update the definition, a definition for clarity. At some point, we've got to bite the bullet and go through the entire zoning aspect. And that is not going to be a easy job.
Through the chair, the seasonal communities designation does a lot of that legwork for us. There is, a lot of these definitions and things like that are stipulated in there.
Oh,
Right.
We'll have to, I would assume, we have to adopt the zoning bylaw changes. I would assume we also have to adopt, update our definitions so that they're, in compliance with the state's definitions.
Yes.
Through the chair, yeah.
Yes.
For seasonal communities, we will have to amend our zoning bylaw.
Susie's already got her
okay.
work cut out. All right, any more on cluster at this point? I think you've given.
One more thing. This has nothing to do with Mr. Durbin's presentation. It's just, if we were going through the document that's included in our packet, the last item, which is, used to be L, is now J, where it says, design guidelines, applicants are encouraged to apply where pertinent to, and it gives a reference to a particular document provided by the Cape Cod Commission.
Yes, great.
Just to let you know, that document no longer exists.
Oh, really?
So if you actually Google a design guideline manual for sustainable development on Cape Cod, there's no such thing. However, the Cape Cod Commission do have on their website a number of guidelines. So I think we should change this not to refer to a specific guideline, because in the future, anytime that guideline gets modified or revoked or something, then we're always going to have to make a change. Perhaps some terminology to send that person to the Cape Cod Commission webpage and look for documentation on there on community design and community development. Because if you look for that particular one, it says, as set forth in pages 44 through 48, that no longer exists.
Well,
That's why
that's
it's
crossed
crossed
out.
I don't have the other page.
It's crossed out.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
I only have this page.
It just says from the Cape Cod Commission,
Yeah.
as well as other relevant sustainable development guidance, period.
Oh, maybe you didn't print me that page.
It's in the back of it,
Well,
was in the
I don't
packet.
have,
So the back of the last
back of the
page.
second page.
I don't have the back of the second page. Oh, okay.
There you go.
I take that back.
I'm going to throw it out there. Is it even necessary to have, it's a special permit. Do we need to site design guidelines?
I'm less concerned with the design of the houses as long as, I'm far more concerned with who's living in them.
Yeah.
And the building code, the modern building code is fairly thorough with what is allowable. So
It's expensive, as you know.
And actually, it just says applicants are encouraged.
Yeah.
It's not a requirement.
Well, it may actually help us out when a proposal does come in, if it has addressed or incorporated some of the compact residential development guidance that's provided by the commission, because we may look at it and go, wait, what'd you do here? You need to do a better job of designing this subdivision. So, it at least points them in the right direction without necessarily making it a requirement.
It's loose enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So next steps, Jerry, this is going to come back to us in August with the changes we've talked about. So,
Comfortable with that? Okay, yes.
Thank you all. very
Okay?
much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Durbin.
Next on the agenda is home occupation. Discussion.
There's a lot.
Didn't know where we wanted to go. You made a definition change,
Well, we
Right.
voted on a definition.
and we voted on it.
Yes.
Is there anything I'm not really ready in the time element for October to dive into home occupation and the rest of that.
Why not?
Well, I mean, home occupation is clean enough. I'm more concerned with home occupation as far as oysters, shellfish, and that kind of stuff.
Well, so it's interesting, because in the existing bylaw, shellfishing and fishing aren't even mentioned.
Right.
But it is,
I don't know why they're not mentioned.
Right, barber shop? How many barber shops do we have in
Well,
Wellfleet?
so some things are mentioned kind of randomly as being allowed and not being allowed.
If I may, those, and we talked about this last month, I believe, but most of those disallowed business uses, that's more for health reasons. That's more of a Board of Health concern, and yeah, there's different just chemicals or sterile facilities and that sort of management just changes the use quite a bit.
I'm not sure I agree with you, but there are lots of occupations that aren't mentioned at all.
well, no, it's simply a guideline to say anything similar in nature is sort of what the Board of Appeals has to do if somebody comes in with a request for a use. If it's not specifically in our use table, but resembles something in the use table, they hear the case. Is there something else in the home occupation that needs to be changed as drastic as within the house?
That's only in the
Was.
definition.
Well, but the definition changes the whole aspect of the use.
I think there's more that needs to be changed or discussed, at
Okay,
least.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, all the
Glad,
stuff in blue.
All the stuff in blue.
Yeah, through the chair,
yes.
I agree with Beth that there's lots of things that could be changed or at least should be discussed. That being said, Beth, your motion last month, I think was the most glaring change that was required. And I'm wondering, Mr. Chair, if that's going to, if that zoning bylaw change is going to get on to the fall town meeting or the spring town meeting?
I think as soon as the TA sets a date, I'm assuming October for the fall town meeting, then we can work backwards to see how much we can get done. Because there's a time limit on when we have to have that bylaw advertised and heard before town meeting. I honestly can't remember it, but it's weeks. You can't have a hearing 2 days before, I don't think. So you've got to give people time. So that in itself is a very simple public hearing on that change. That certainly, I feel, could be on the fall town meeting. I would, depending on what else comes up on the home occupation, if they're as simple in nature.
They're not.
Okay, so there you go. So if they take a lot more tweaking, we have to be considerate. in the past, it's not only time element, it is time element, but the time element, remember, is if you're trying to get into the October town meeting and you're already into the middle of August for the next meeting, you have a month, 8 to 10 weeks. Once you advertise it, that freezes zoning and allows that use. You don't give people enough time to file or do, if they have to get a special permit to do something. It's like a subdivision, or not a subdivision, because that doesn't go before. It's like a zoning bylaw change, changing a size of a lot in a district. If it gets too close to that date, they don't have time to get an engineer to protect themselves. So in the past, we've tried to be considerate when we make changes, not to give them a year to change from the hearing, but give them a reasonable time that if they have to make an adjustment. Otherwise, it's sort of, I'm going to pass this at the last minute and give nobody the ability to do anything else.
Well, I think that depends on whether you're getting more restrictive or less restrictive.
Right.
And this
If
is
you're getting less restrictive, yes,
restrictive.
right.
Right, so the nature of this change is really.
Which
you know,
change?
The change that Beth proposed last month, specific language, including on the premises for home occupancy definition. I don't have the exact language in front of me. It was in the agenda, it was in.
It's on here.
last
A.
month.
It's A, 1A.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
So we already voted on that.
You can also check the minutes out.
Yeah, it was on the minutes, thank you. Very specifically noted on the minutes, so thank you for that, Shalani. But since that
Yep.
change is effectively just bringing the bylaw to meet the status quo of how people actually operate in this town,
Exactly.
then
Yes.
I don't see, I understand your concern normally regarding timing of
That would be
things
no
being
problem.
posted, but, right.
Right. But there could be, and we haven't dived into the other ones, if they are more complicated in nature.
Well,
and
why don't we go through
That's
this
fine.
and
Yeah.
decide that?
Right. Okay, B, service trade definition, a business activity which provides,
So can I do this, Jerry, because
you
I
can do
wrote
it. Yep, you wrote it, so yes.
Yeah, I wrote it.
By all means.
I wrote this in the hopes of moving this along. So my experience with the definitions and the bylaws of home occupation, service trade business, and service trade home business is confusing. So I tried to simplify it. So the first thing I'm proposing is that service trade be a subcategory of home occupation, not its own. There is no definition currently. So a service trade definition, a business activity which provides service to customers primarily, I'm adding but not entirely, on the customer's property. Because we talked about this, that all of these service trade occupations also do some things on their property, in their homes and in their property. So, so that's why, just to clarify, I'm proposing, but not entirely. And then service trades would be allowed by right, as shown in the use regulations, residential. You'd have to do that in order to accommodate the change as being a home occupation. So let's stop there.
Question.
Sure.
Through Jerry.
Yes.
Landscape services caught my eye because of the amount of not just equipment, but often mulch, compost, topsoil, whatever, that landscapers use. So do we really want to have, is landscaping maybe less a service and more of a business? You know, which
Well, good
then it
question.
would be special permit.
Okay, we got the building inspector here, but I'm going to answer it and then turn it over to him. Landscape service, to me, would be any landscaper, whether they're doing lawns, whether they're doing mulching, whether they're doing stoning of driveways, is fine, because they're doing it on the customer's property. Once they take a product such as bark mulch,
Yeah.
stone, would you, I'm going to now go right to Justin, would you consider that now, which is a required special permit, bulk storage?
That's exactly what I was going to say, was, I think that if you're doing bins and such, you know, not at a small quantity, but at larger quantities, and I don't think we have it exactly defined in the zoning bylaw. In my last time period here, I actually did deal with some bulk storage stuff, but I think it's more with regard to like full excavation and large concrete blocks where they have like a couple of tandem axle dump trucks come in and dump it into a, like a carriage space with concrete bunkers. And usually those would receive a special permit because they are a business. But a general landscaper, I wouldn't think, most of their business is being conducted on other lots. And the other point that I wanted to bring up is, you know, they have all these programs now about trying to promote our technical schools, okay? And like Mike Rowe doing all this stuff with like technical trades to get kids to do the hands-on stuff with all this AI stuff that's gonna take over the financial guys. We complain about the price of construction, but I love seeing, you know, all the contractors here are people I know and work with on a daily basis, and I think that they need to be supported and be able to do something outside their home sometimes, like build a custom barn door and not annoy their neighbors and not create noise, vibration, any of these other things. But I think the bylaw, I like how you're putting service, trade, home business inside this. I think that's a good idea because there is no separate definition. But maybe you'd want to list more of the things that are customarily done in our town. Carpentry, electricians, plumbers, well drillers, landscapers. This stuff is included in aquaculture, you know, which has other protections under state law. Is going to stay under the other discussion. But I think we got to be. It would be really interesting if we'd be supportive of those tradespeople, because I think it's going to be really important in the future. And there's not a lot of builders and tradespeople. The bylaws seem to me, in the other towns I've worked in, to become more of a homeowners association bylaw. And I don't know if that has to do with population change or value of land or whatever it is, but a lot of these contractors they support construction is the biggest industry on Cape Cod and nobody talks about it. So I think they need to be supported and to be there to service the rest of the community.
So why isn't shellfishing and fishing a service trade?
It's not a service.
I'm not talking about the big guys. I'm talking about the little guys.
There's tons of them.
The free picker, the free.
Yeah.
Well, no, go ahead.
It's just not a service. It wouldn't be appropriate. They harvest a product. They're harvesting
It's a
a
business.
resource
It's
and then
agriculture.
selling it to a wholesaler. It's just not a service at all.
Why aren't they? Sometimes they're selling
Now,
it.
if you wanted to, well, if their service was a harbor tour or something like that, then that would be a different thing. But if we wanted to lump the shell fishermen and the fishermen into the same category as carpenters or landscapers or things like that, then I think a simple change of the item of the definition, just to remove the term service, or just to use some more general term that encapsulates all of them. I don't know if that's necessary, if we can, it might be the cleanest way of doing it, because then everybody's on the same playing field. Everybody has similar regulations,
Yeah.
guiding.
So service
required to
is
follow.
currently a title of all of them except home occupation. It's service trade business, service trade home business. So there's no option. according to that thinking,
Well, and-
there's no option in any of these.
I think that's why we're cleaning up
Yeah.
the home occupation and then also just the zoning definitions now, because many years away from when this bylaw was written, so it's time for a refreshing.
So which one would you suggest we take away the word service? Maybe we just have trade business?
I haven't looked at this issue from that perspective exactly, but I did notice that the service trade business is different from, the service trade business in definitions in the zoning bylaws does not mention anything about being inside of a dwelling or an accessory building.
Right.
It does say a service trade that does not meet the limitations of home occupations. So that, one of the limitations of home occupation is inside of a dwelling or an accessory building. So it would seem to me that somebody
On
who, for
premises.
example, is a carpenter and who is building or some sort of fabricator who is fabricating a component that is going to be installed onto a customer's property, if they're doing that outside in their own yard at their residence and they have a special permit for a service trade business, then that would be totally inside of our bylaws to be doing that. That being said, that's not going to cover shellfishermen storing gear or landscapers with...
No, because that's only in the commercial zone.
What?
No,
Yeah. Service trade business is commercial.
no. Yeah, well, it doesn't, yeah.
It's the only place it is in the use table, it's in commercial.
Okay, then you're right.
So should it be?
Well, I think we need to,
I have Bob next, but go ahead. Bob?
But I think your issue with shellfishing, that type of, is it what you had a question about?
Well, actually, I
Why isn't
don't,
it in
but
there?
that's been, our conversation has been a lot about
Right.
that.
Well, when these bylaws were written, as Al said, it was a long time ago. Aquaculture and farming of shellfish products was not a thing back then. It was all done naturally. They picked oysters and clams off the grants that were there naturally. Now they grow them. They plant them and they grow them. It's an industry. It's a completely different industry than it was 100 years ago or even 50 years ago. So there's a lot of shellfishermen in this town that would be doing something else, and most of the time they are doing something else when they're not shellfishing. So it's a small microcosm of an industry that has been growing up and down the East Coast for the last 50 years or so. We definitely need something to protect those guys and allow them to store their stuff on their property. It doesn't make sense for them to have a separate space to store their gear when they have to get up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and get their trailer loaded and take it out to the ground. So that's a home occupation? I don't think so, because the only time they're at home is when they're sleeping. And the work that they do is not on the site, for the most part. I mean, they clean their racks,
I
they
don't
do a
know if
lot
that's
of...
accurate.
Yeah, okay. They do a lot of cleaning of the racks and storing and that kind of stuff at home. Yeah.
And, yeah, sorting, bagging, washing,
A lot of it's done in their yards.
yes, that's what he said.
Okay.
The wild, basically, the wild pickers pick off the grants and turn that over at that point to the wholesaler at the pier, and they're gone. They go home, take their rakes if they're doing clams, some bags and whatnot. The picker who works off the commercial grants in Wellfleet, non-commercial grants in Wellfleet, that doesn't have a grant, is a completely different person than an individual that has a grant.
Right.
the serious money being made in Wellfleet in aquaculture is the grant holder.
Right.
They have to have, without exaggeration, anywhere from 100 to 500.
This doesn't apply to them.
This doesn't apply to them. It's a separate animal, and as I had said at the last meeting, now that the farming
It's farming, yes.
was passed at town meeting and wetland was included, so if somebody has a half an acre of upland at their house and they have an acre and a half grant, they are a protected farm from all zoning bylaws. All zoning bylaws except for setbacks and height restrictions and building restrictions, except if it's a barn.
Right, this doesn't apply to
This
them.
doesn't apply to them at all. I think going back to service trade landscaping, I think something could be put in that said, specifically, and I'm looking towards Justin here, it's clear in our definition that bulk storage is a special permit. Any type of bulk storage, whether it's stone, whether or not it's landscaping mulch, whether it's anything to do with bulk storage, is in fact a special permit and restricted on where it is. So if a lot of these landscapers, they will pick up stone and deliver it directly to the customer because they don't bring it home,
Right.
because they don't have the cement. So if something were to be put in there into that service trade definition that you drew, if it was...
This is existing. What's blue is existing.
Okay, but if something were put in there to say, for example, landscapers, any bulk storage brought to the property and dumped on the property, any products dropped on the property for storage will be considered bulk storage and will need a special permit.
So it,
That would cure that problem completely.
right, it's
And would
because,
that, because what we pass, it goes to him to enforce, would that give you something of that effect is a parameter to say, wait a minute, you just dropped it at your house and you may have dropped 4 or 5 yards. I didn't build any blocks, cement blocks. No, but that's bulk and you dropped it on your property. That's not allowed under the definition.
I think it would be a good way to separate, if you need a special permit for that bulk storage, a landscaper's welcome to come apply and just make that part of it. But if they have the land area, available to make the bins to do that, and they're doing it quietly, but I think the special permit is a good idea at that point because of the traffic required that would be coming to pick up from them.
So that would be a change.
it would be an addition to what you wrote.
Be a
Yeah,
specificity.
I didn't write this. What's blue is the existing
no, the brown,
definition.
Right.
the brown.
Oh, the brown is, okay. But, so, here we have a list of occupations that are traditional.
Yep.
And there's no room for what's non-traditional. So a lot of people are computer experts, and they have a home business, and they go around and they help other people fix their computers and download things and repair things. And that's a business that's thriving, but it's
Okay, so, I see.
But what
where
I'm
you-
saying is this is
There are
very
others.
limiting.
Right, so,
But it says including but not limited to.
right.
And if, to be
Yes.
very pedantic, there have been technicians that have operated out of their homes and traveled to the customers' homes to repair wood stoves and
Uh-huh.
ice boxes
Yeah, well,
and
that's on the
refrigerators
appliances.
for hundreds, and cars for hundreds of years. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that would be traditional use.
Yeah.
Traditional in nature.
Yeah.
Just because the tool is a lot more complicated doesn't mean that the nature of the profession is.
But I think, but not limited to, I mean, if you really wanted to, you could say, but not limited to the following. Prior to that, and I can't think of it this fast, you could put something in effect. The following list is certainly not complete, but just an idea of, something of that nature. I mean, if the minute you start going into trying to label every single one of them.
That's what I'm trying to get away from.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna miss one I and you're gonna
That's right.
forget to cross the T.
That's right.
Well, I do think that there is a pretty good reason why a lot of these particular professions were excluded, and that is because there is a health component to the enforcement or to regulating them.
You're going to A,
So,
talking about A.
yeah, I mean, all of these things under A, 1A, and Beth's printout, those things would all be monitored by the local government or the state government.
Could you put in that definition, notwithstanding if any of these happen to be a health issue?
I think that's right, instead of naming them.
Yes, could be a health issue, must receive certification from the Board of Health. I mean, that's an addendum you could easily put in there.
Well, that would go without saying. I mean, the state law would require a beautician or an anesthetician or a barber to.
And I think that's why we left it out of sometimes.
They have separate licensing directly through the state.
Right.
Yep.
But it would be the local health inspector that would be monitoring those locations.
Yes.
So, sorry, can I ask a question?
No, it's just, some of the uses that are in this are just about extinct. For example, the barbers and the beauticians, because because of the health situation, they are not doing it at their homes because the new septic regulations and everything just outlaw it. They go to a commercial location, which has already been approved. So,
Right.
again, that's going to probably take a rewrite and see what it comes back at. The world, or the Wellfleet's not being tipped upside down by the service trade yet. It was really that work, as I say, inside and outside. I'm not dismissing any of this and saying it's not important. It is, but certainly.
Well, I do think that one glaring oversight of the bylaws as they are written now is, I'll just say, the lack of protections for shell fishing. And do you have the reasoning that they're protected by being agricultural or aquacultural or farming in nature?
Not all.
But not all of them.
Anything under 2 acres.
Right. So
They are at the mercy of,
Right.
does it fit somewhere else in our zoning bylaw?
So I think that should be, I mean, everything that Beth has presented here is all very important for consideration, but
And clear cut, it can be done.
seeing how we can fit aquaculture and the general fishing industry into the bylaws so that those grant holders with smaller grants or the wild pickers that don't have the grants and fishermen with boats, that they are protected.
So where do we put that?
So, can I offer something?
Sure.
I think that the basic division here is things that are trades that can be under home occupation by right, and the ones that are businesses and need a special permit. And so the people who have less than 2 acres but are professional shellfishers, then the special permit allows whoever is granting them the service trade home business, the permit, has criteria in our zoning laws already about noise, about,
Well, we need to look at that, too.
yeah, I know, but I mean, I think that
These are just definitions, this isn't even the bylaw.
Yeah, exactly,
Well,
exactly, but let's start with the definitions.
right, and I agree with that, Bonnie, and I think that the easiest place to offer the fishing industry protection would be in home occupation, and it would be sort of an addendum to the motion that you made last meeting, and instead of saying "or on the premises," include some language that implies on the seas or on the flats or elsewhere, or that can be brought home to the premises. That seems to be the appropriate place for the language to be added. Because
Because if you're protecting, I guess where you're going and I'm going is, if you're protecting 75 to 80% of the shellfish industry and leaving the small guys out to hang, the smaller ones aren't really creating as much I'm going to say nuisance hazard and congestion, but it is noise and whatnot, as the larger ones, which are automatically allowed to do it on their property because they're a farm.
But it's not just shell fishermen. I mean, fishermen that lobstermen and scallopers.
Yeah, I think you did. I think you do it under a broad. It wouldn't say just shellfish. It would say shellfish, fishing, that whole thing.
Why don't we have?
Aquaculture, yeah.
Why don't we have their own category?
We could.
Agriculture/aquaculture.
I think a lot of what you're trying to protect is their maintenance and preparation for what they do as their profession out in the flats.
Yeah.
Yeah, which seems to me like it would fall into a home occupation because
Yeah.
part of your occupation is done at your home. Even if that occupation for the day is servicing a diesel engine or scraping the barnacles off the bottom of a boat or sorting oysters, into 100-piece bags. Even if the bulk of that business is done elsewhere, in the case of a boat out there, and in the case of the shell fishermen somewhere on the flats, at the home is where a portion of that occupation is taking place. So it would seem to me that the most common sense place to add that language would be in the definition of home occupation.
Yeah. So Turo has some reference to it in their definition of home occupation?
Yes, churro is very different than us.
But it,
Right.
it's interesting because it limits it to the sale of fish or shellfish as opposed to the, in the case of shellfish, the growing and the culture of.
Which is ironic because
Acculturate.
they can't, unless they have a wholesale license
Yeah,
and they have to have a building
yeah,
with refrigeration and everything, they can't sell their product.
yeah.
It has to go through a wholesaler.
Yeah.
But, as I said in the last meeting, is you would be, and I think those that see it, and I said, if you need to see it in person, you come by the property, because I've got 2 shell fishermen on the farm. A great deal of shellfish industry is done at the home.
Oh, absolutely.
You have what we call vibrio periods, where you can't sell the product if it's over 2 hours out of the water, but you can bring the product home, sort it, which takes hours upon hours with a sorter machine going, with water. And if it's out of the water more than 2 hours, you then have to return it back to the water, soak it for 10 days, then pull it out and sell it within 2 hours. So there's a tremendous amount of cleaning gear, cleaning oysters, rebagging oysters. You put an oyster that's half the size of your thumbnail, and you start with, before it gets to 2.5 or 3 inches, you have to put that in 3 to 4 different bag sizes. That's all done at home. All done at home.
Question?
Yes.
So this is true for the smaller, the smaller
It's
grants that
you could have a
that,
quarter acre, or you could have 5 acres, it's the exact same thing. The process is the same. You bring it home, clean it, do everything.
So these aren't covered by the state's definition of agriculture as it relates to aquaculture? Is it because they're less than
Because
5
of-
acres?
It's the
or-
size.
Yeah, exactly. What they say is, the state of Massachusetts says that aquaculture is an allowed use. However, they do not, in order to, 5 acres by the state regulations is an automatic farm, if you're a farmer.
Right.
Untouchable,
Yep.
basically. They reduce that all the way down to 2 acres if, in fact, you make $1,000 or more an acre.
Yeah.
So whether or not you have a quarter acre of grant or you have 5 acres, that same process going through the bagging, the whole 9 yards, is not done on the grant because your tides are coming in and going out so fast that you see some of these larger floating places where they do it, it all comes home.
Yeah, no, I'm just
Yep.
surprised that the state doesn't just provide that ag exemption to, the 5 acres is typically for, a ground-based farm.
Well, I know, I forgot to finish it.
Yeah.
The state does not allow your grant, which is underwater, as part of your acreage. So if you've got a 20,000 square foot lot and you have a 5 acre grant, the state says you are still not protected because you do not have 2 acres of upland.
Right.
oh,
So we need
That's
to-
the catch.
So that's something that we need to talk to SEER about getting changed so that you really address this situation. But it would seem to, since they're not getting the exemption that the land-based farmer is getting. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Justin.
No, that's okay.
Just to make some distinctions and not to pick on one profession or the other, the Pizal case, which is out of Wellfleet, okay, defines shellfishing as farming,
Yeah.
and fishing more as hunting, just depending, like tunas, okay, I'll use that example, I'm an inlander. But these
could
shell
you
fishermen
go
should,
closer to the microphone?
these shell fishermen should be treated like the dairy farmers from my home area. Even if they're less than 2 acres, we could provide some protections for.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, it's
But the
just,
state doesn't, like Jerry's saying, the state doesn't provide any of those agricultural protections for less than 2 acres, and a lot of our shellfishermen are on less than 2 acres.
But we can, because we did it. We
Yeah.
passed that zoning bylaw at town meeting, including the grant areas as the 2 acres for farming.
Really?
Yeah, that got passed at town meeting about, it was at the school in the, outside.
Last fall.
So what were we looking at, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
Before you were here?
4 years ago.
We were roasting outside in about a 90-degree day. So what Mike DeVasco did is made a petitioned article and included, when we passed that farming for agriculture, that your grant is now included in your area for those 2 acres.
so why can't we just then, under home occupation, just include where it says, this, where it says, oh, I'm sorry, in Bonnie.
Doesn't,
Yeah, I've lost it. We've got too much paper here. Yeah, thank you. Where it says, including but not limited to, just put in aquaculture.
that's service trade.
Oh, okay, but under home occupation, could we not
Which
just,
service trade is under home occupation.
no, the home occupation definition, I don't think.
Well, aquaculture, again, would be a problem because it's still 2 acres. If you were to say that any, if you put it under home occupation, any shellfish grant holder
Yeah,
is considered a home occupation, now it doesn't matter how much acreage they have.
Well, couldn't
They're
you
all
say-
protected.
couldn't you say any shellfish grant holder or commercial licensee? So then
You could do
get the
both.
Then
Sure.
you get the pickers.
Yeah, you could do the both.
Yeah.
Al?
I'm not sure that Beth's proposed change from last meeting doesn't already protect fishermen of all sorts, just by adding on the premises after,
Uh-huh.
on the same lot. It's a business activity, and if
It is a business.
it's a business activity and it's being conducted on the premises, so that sounds pretty general.
Beth?
I think it covers it. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think.
You don't want to go there? No? Okay. Bob?
So, because I'm sort of new to the whole idea of this, the shellfish industry, we have 4 definitions right now about home occupation and home
And service
service.
trades.
Right.
Yeah,
So
there's
right now
three,
there-
there's one occupation, and then we went into 3
service trades.
service trades, and when we did this originally, we divided service trade into, as you got larger and your business was more successful, and you got more equipment and more employees, you stepped up from service trade to service trade business to service trade home business definition. So that's the reason for those 3 breakdowns.
Okay.
When you hit more than 2 members and a third person working for you, you now move up. So when you get into a high-end service trade business that's got 3 trucks, 4 trucks, 4 employees, you now need to be in a business location or a commercial location. That's the reason.
So the 4 definitions as they stand, none of them mention anything about the shellfish
No,
industry or
that's
aquaculture. And now we're trying to squeeze that into a revised definition of something.
No.
Do we have to?
No. We don't
Why
have
are we
to.
even discussing this?
Well, that's why
I
we're
mean, what-
discussing it, is
But
does it
is there-
fit? Well, that's why we
Is it
do it.
protected if we don't mention it?
But is there a
That's-
problem now with shell fishermen finding premises and doing their work?
Some neighbors would have a general definition and look at that thing and say, oh, well, generally, is that customary? And you know, it's a little vague.
So if you,
But has it been a problem? Have people
Yeah.
protested
There's
enough that
been
the shellfish
lawsuits.
person cannot?
Not yet.
if you go to the bylaw,
Right.
and again, as Beth educated me, all of this is complaint-based. So if you have the wrong neighbor, the way, and using the language that exists, and it's complaint-based, yeah, you're in trouble. Because, as Justin told me once upon a time, no business doesn't have these impacts, one or another of these impacts, if you look at the bylaw.
The service trade home business one, the one where it's a special permit, that's what you're referring to,
No,
right?
all of them,
All,
Oh, no.
all of them.
so,
So this is home occupations.
so,
Oh,
so
uh-huh.
for at least
People with neighborhoods,
15 years,
right.
and I can put a tag of 15 years. For at least 15 years,
Oh,
there
right.
has never been a problem with a plumber, electrician, or anyone who's working outside, who is considered a home occupation
Right.
or a service trade, had a problem. It took one neighbor to create fiasco and say, that person is operating outside, therefore it's not allowed, because the bylaw says if you go outside and work, you are no longer protected. So to answer your question now, Bob, no neighbor has felt bad enough to appeal to the building inspector on, to my knowledge, on shell fishermen. But it will take one individual to complain, where all of a sudden, if we don't, just like we're doing now, if we don't dive into it, tear it apart, and say, okay, if we can't fit it into one of these, the Board of Appeals isn't going to fit into one of these, so we've got to find a way to either protect it or it becomes unprotected.
So
Does that help?
That
you?
helps.
That's why
Okay.
Nothing has happened to this point.
So here's a suggestion. If we can agree that shell fishing is the primary industry of Wellfleet, this is what Wellfleet is known for. This is the only industry we really have. Should we not be looking at, not trying to squeeze it into one of these things, but let's deal with it as a definition, a defined industry, the real primary basis of Wellfleet, and come up with a bylaw regulation for that. And maybe I'm complicating things, but whenever you're trying to figure out where do I squeeze this, how do I define it, and so on, it's such an important industry. It's the foundation of the town. Does it not require its own?
I agree. I think you could do that, but it's always easier to get a zoning bylaw passed on town meeting floor if you're, for example, changing, as Beth did when she changed the definition of home occupation, inside or outside. It tends to be easy for the general public to understand. When you create an entire new bylaw and try and explain that on town meeting floor, the concerns say, well, wait a minute, we're creating something new. They get more concerned. If it's something like, okay, it's going in the, we forgot, we needed to put this under home occupation, we've restricted it to X, Y, and Z, the chances are it would flow through very easily. So in creating something different. Beth?
So I just want to
That's a small
highlight
detail.
that marine aquaculture is a defined term in our zoning bylaw.
I was looking, I couldn't find it under something.
Marine aquaculture, an
Marine-
activity related to the processing, harvesting, procurement, sale, or handling of fish, shellfish, or other water-related foodstuffs or products. This is in the use chart under commercial heavy.
But there's no definition,
There
right?
is, it is in the definitions.
Yeah, it
I
is.
just read the
It's in,
definition.
it's in.
What page?
It's only commercial.
I've got page
11.
235, colon 11.
It's only in commercial. And
It is.
most of this happens in.
Oh, marine, oh, there was.
residential.
But there also is a fine line between residential and commercial activities. So just to put that out there.
Well, you could
So
send it.
I'm just telling you what's in the definition and
Okay.
what's in the use chart.
So if you really wanted to, the easiest solution would be simply to add marine aquaculture in the residential, residential, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't that take care of the entire problem?
Make it by right?
By right.
Residential?
Yes,
Under home occupation.
yes.
Yeah,
No, doesn't even have to go into home occupation. It's a, marine aquaculture is by right in the commercial district and the R1. It's already defined?
That would take care of that, yes.
Yes, we'll take care of that.
However,
I know, I see him. But he came, yes, Justin?
Totally worthy of protection, because we did have an issue which resulted in the 6-foot fence bylaw
all right.
in 2018. And it's, this
Yeah, we
profession.
rewrote that.
Yes, and so there has been an issue at a residential lot, and shell fishing deserves the protection because. of
So
what
that
you
would,
identified.
but that would be, wouldn't that be a easier,
I like this idea with the table,
just put it in the table?
put it in the table.
and put the A's and the P's and the O's.
Because you've already got, to your point, Bob, you've already got the general public at town meeting loving oysters, wanting these guys to exist. It's a simple change to say, yes, we want, instead of forcing them to go to commercial, we've realized it's not allowed at residential. R1, it should pass. Go ahead, Bonnie.
So under the use table, home occupation is already permitted in all zones.
No, residential by right.
Yes, residential by right, yes, and everywhere
Only.
else.
It's not in any other place, it's just in residential.
There's no need for it to be in any
No.
other place. It's,
No place, it's because it's home.
yeah.
Bonnie's saying in home occupation under residential,
home.
it's permitted everywhere.
Residential, yeah.
Right, so it's permitted.
Through the
in
chair,
all-
Yes.
in
I would
all
suggest
zones.
something like this is more commercial
special
activity, so
permit.
it should be done by special permit.
Oh, you're right. No. It's special permit.
Aquaculture?
It's up to you all, but I think there is definitely a fine line between residential and commercial activity. So I'm just putting it out there for your consideration.
So does that,
Large fishing boats are allowed on every single lot in Chatham, no matter where it is, because it's a fishing community.
Well, and right now, we
I gotta
have
be
any
careful
number
because
of,
I'm there, but I'm protected, so I gotta be
I'm
careful.
not sure what Beth is saying.
Beth is saying that she feels that instead of by right in the R1, it should be by special permit, right?
well, but right now, we have any number of grant holders living in residential areas that utilize their side lots and yards for their gear and their equipment.
Yeah, the only thing I'm highlighting here is the way it's currently defined under our zoning, the Wellfleet zoning, it is a commercial activity. So I'm just highlighting that.
Well,
So we, you.
Business activity.
So, Beth, if, to be clear,
no, it's business.
Oh,
your recommendation would be we remove it from the commercial C heavy use table
Put it
and
in the
put
other
it
one?
into a separate use table on 235:22?
She's saying leave it there, but if you're gonna add it to
Add
the
it.
R1
By special permit,
by
okay.
special permit.
P.
that would be
Okay.
moving forward then, obviously. Because-
Well,
because, I mean, there's-
if you don't have it wait a minute, if you don't have it anywhere else, Beth, are they a protected use right now?
I don't see why you need a special permit.
Are they
No,
a
let's-
protected use currently?
No,
Marie-
if, let's say you've got 10 shellfish industry, shellfishermen, hate the word, but 10 people involved in the shellfish industry who are not protected under farming. 75% of all of them are protected by farming. You have a very small amount, which is mostly the small ones, that are not protected as clear as we would like under home occupation or service trade, whatever. Marine aquaculture is allowed by right, by special permit in the commercial district? Or is it by right?
By right in a commercial district,
By right in the commercial district?
yeah.
So it's by right in the commercial district, but if those people, because very few, and I don't know of anyone except for Chris right now across from Lock and Tackle, that might be in a commercial district, but I think that's a C. Is that commercial? C2,
No, it's actually, no,
commercial?
I think it's an R2.
R2,
I think
okay.
so.
So therefore, you would, if
That's why
you
we
made
did
it
a
a
special permit for the road.
yeah, if you made a special permit for those small people, less than 2 acres, instead of by right, where the big ones are by right, we're penalizing the
That's right.
Yeah.
smaller ones.
And just to
Yes.
just to reemphasize this, it's not just shellfishermen with grants, it's the guys with boats too, of which there are numerous in
Yes.
Wellfleet.
It's your lobstermen, your shellfishermen, your
Scallops,
Right.
scallops,
scalpers,
draggers, yeah.
all of it.
And I'm not suggesting penalizing the small, people who have a smaller grant or anything like that. I'm just saying, as you consider this, please just be cognizant of the fine line between commercial and residential. That's all I'm saying.
Well, the commercial, I guess, just to be a devil's advocate, when you say commercial, you're usually thinking retail, they can do their own businesses. Most of these guys don't have licenses to sell their own product. It has to go to someplace else. So therefore, basically, they're working out of their house and can't sell to the general public. I would personally, and I appreciate the catch, but I think I would like to see it under residential by right.
Why
I
wouldn't
would
it go
agree.
under farm uses? Just call it, because, I mean,
You'd have to lower your farm.
no, but I mean, in terms of the definition, like, I'm surprised, and I have to say, being new to this, that marine aquaculture is listed under commercial heavy in parentheses, as opposed to it being the sort of agricultural, in Western Mass, every town is a right to farm town for the most part that has any kind of agriculture. And so if you have a complaint because your neighbor's roosters wake you up in the morning, no one's going to listen to that complaint because you live in a farm town. And so if you live in a...
That's correct.
and
Yep,
we
I
now
agree with
live-
you,
and we-
totally.
and our farm town is shellfishing and other scalloping and other fishing industries. And if you live in Wellfleet and your neighbor happens to be a shellfishing farmer who has to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get to the low tide, and that wakes you up, you don't have a complaint because you live in a right to farm, or we should be a right to farm community, even though we don't have no traditional farm.
That would be a good explanation on top of name floor why it should be by right.
Well, and through the chair,
Yes.
That's kind of part of where I was going. I mean, I think it's really important to look at the definitions, and because marine aquaculture is its own specific definition, which does go to commercial.
Right.
So as you examine this, I would just encourage you to look at those
Look at that
definitions
definition.
and see where they're placed in the use tables.
Right.
Yeah, but to Bob's point, I don't understand why marine aquaculture shouldn't just get shifted off of the commercial table and onto the farm uses table.
Because they're not big enough. And you're talking about people that just are off their boats.
So,
Farm use under your,
Farm use on the zoning use tables.
Yes.
right.
Table E.
Okay, but a farm, if you go to the definition, is 5 acres.
Well,
State-
no, but that's the state definition. We could probably,
Do we have a definition?
We did because we reduced farming
Right, yeah.
to include the grant.
right. So why couldn't we then just move it into farm uses? This could become farm/aquaculture uses, because,
Farm, family, agricultural, any parcel of land or a portion thereof used for the raising of agricultural products for home consumption or for sale, which is used secondary to the primary residential use of the property. So,
Well, you could simply add aquaculture to that.
yeah, right.
yeah, but we could also switch marine aquaculture from the commercial table, table C, to farm uses, E. I mean, also seems to make more sense.
Why not have it in every place?
That is definitely an option. Because, I mean, if you change, like I said, look at the definitions, look at the use tables.
Yeah.
There's farm commercial, there's farm family agriculture, and if you look at the use table for farm uses, farm family agriculture is permitted across the board.
Every use.
So, I mean, just
So how about
just
this?
consider that.
And it's greatly, this is why when you do this, that you have to beat it up, get all the stuff. How about you work on that and just see if you can clean up the definition and see what we can do to change it, to put it into farm use? That would make a heck of a lot more sense.
I have a question.
Yes.
These tables are labeled, but they are not defined. Those labels are not defined. Like commercial, heavy in parentheses is not defined in the definitions of our bylaws. Is that definition coming from somewhere else? Because I do recall having seen these definitions expressed somewhere in my life, industrial, commercial.
The items are, rather than the commercial heavy, all of the bulk and motor vehicle and all is in your, should be in definition.
Right.
Industrial
I
heavy.
understand that the categories underneath but inquiring as to specifically the table titles. Because if,
I don't think we,
It's by zone.
is there, do you think there's a need
I'm wondering
to-
if marine aquaculture was put on the commercial heavy table for a reason, what reason it would have been put on that table in the first place?
Well, it could have, it could have been back, I mean, I remember that it's been there, I don't think in my tenure here that we've changed that marine aquaculture definition, I think it's been there. It could have been back 50, 60 years ago when they were considering boats, big boats,
Yeah, like oyster barges.
oyster barges and that kind of stuff.
Mussel barges.
Or the big clipper ships.
Yep.
Or tow in the harbor.
Yeah.
Or the scallop boats. So it could have been that.
So 100-foot.
Yes. Or the 50-footers. I mean, you know, we had boats on the west side of Jeremy for years upon years, taking oysters on the west side. It's now barren, it's gone, so they're not fishing that at all. They're basically fishing for just clams. So I think that is a carryover from years.
Well, then that's one more reason why we should be,
I do not have an explanation of where that came from. So
I don't
I
think
wish
so.
I did, but I don't.
Yeah, I didn't think. I've been around a little longer than you, and I can't remember, so.
There is an industry heavy and industry light that has a little bit of this in there.
yeah, I think that's what I'm recalling.
Okay. It's in the.
And there's specific definitions to those. Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So are we discussing now, taking this all in, to make it by right anywhere? Is that what we're looking at?
I think that would be ideal.
Because
If it's allowed in residential, why would it not be allowed anywhere else in the town of Wellfleet?
Yeah, right.
So I guess my next question is, so I did make a statement that shell fishing is Wellfleet's primary industry. It does have another industry, which is tourism. So we do know that, you know, that this population of this town increases tenfold for a certain period of time. So I'm just bringing this forward. I have no way of, I don't agree or disagree, but if we allow this everywhere, would this affect the tourism industry as an effect of someone saying, oh, I'm going to rent this house and find out that there's a shellfish industry right next door, and the odors and the noise and the constant back and forth of trucks is going to say to that person, oh, I don't think I'm going to rent there, I'm going to rent somewhere else.
It hasn't so
Been
far.
a problem. That's what I mentioned before.
Right.
We're trying to put this definition somewhere. It's a complaint-based system, and it hasn't happened yet, but I know we want to make sure it doesn't happen. That's why we want to codify it. So,
And I don't think, based on the fact that most of those people that come to town are buying Wellfleet oysters anyway to eat, I think it's sort of like,
well, it's like what Bob said.
they
if
come
there's
by
a
the farm and
rooster-
see the alpacas and feed the alpacas. They go out on the Grant, and a lot of them on Mayo Beach will kind of scoop up a few oysters that somebody else owns and take them home. Plus all of the commercial individual license holders will go out on the commercial grants that the town provides and gets oysters. The fish markets are complaining because we give out so many commercial licenses that they're not buying the oysters in the
By the day,
fish
by the
market.
weekend,
They're
by the
yes.
Okay. I just want everybody to
I
understand that there
understand.
could be a backlash. It could be a homeowner who wants to sell his property, and because there is this industry next door, he feels his property is devalued.
Oh, well.
I think this is a valid concern. I just, I suppose it's where ultimately are our priorities, and I think that one of the only valid industries that we have, that locals have out here to support and sustain, living out here is the fishing industry, and I think that should be our priority. There are lots of people that support themselves through the tourism industry. We haven't seen a retraction in that yet, or maybe it's the unseen, and we just haven't noticed the retraction because it's always just been there. We haven't noticed it, but it seems at this point there are shellfishermen all over the place, there are lobstermen all over the place, scallopers all over the place, and it hasn't deterred the tourism to a point where it's noticeable at this point.
I think the definition of agriculture under the state of Massachusetts, and I can bring it with me. I can't recite it chapter and verse off the top of my head. Includes aquaculture. It's included in the definition of agriculture. So I think in addition to what we've just been talking about, we also may want to further protect or recognize the shellfishing and fishing, the aquaculture industry in Wellfleet, is to consider a right to farm bylaw and actually make Wellfleet a right to farm community.
Don't we have that?
I thought we had it.
Yeah.
Did that come in on that warrant, on that petition article of Mike's? Was that part of that?
I don't know. I'd have to look at that.
I'd have to look at it,
But
too.
what I will say is that state obviously trumps municipal. We have to be in compliance with state. I'm going to look to our building inspector for confirmation on this. But if we bring our local bylaw in line with what the state bylaw says, that's fine. We can be more restrictive, we can't be less restrictive. But if we bring it in line, just so that there is potentially a lack of confusion, or somebody just looks to one thing, which is,
I couldn't
our
get it.
local bylaw, which does echo the state, then I think that would be a potentially good place to start. But
But
again, I
didn't
leave
we-
it up to you all.
But didn't we just do that when we passed,
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh,
This is
including-
October 2024.
Yeah, so you do have it.
when we passed on town meeting floor, reduction to include grants as a farm? No?
I would have to re-examine that.
Because the
I don't know.
state says 2 acre, we
Yeah.
only consider acreage as a farm protection of 2 acres or more, and it's upland. We added, in Wellfleet, you are protected under our zoning if you're a farm, if you have 2 acres, and you can include your grant. And the state didn't come down and say anything, and that passed at least 5 years ago.
So it does look
Well,
like
it has to go through the AG's office,
Okay.
so.
Oh, I haven't complete.
this is on the books, right? Yeah, it does look like it's been,
It's Chapter 145, the Town of Wellfleet, adopted by the town meeting, the Town of Wellfleet, February 26, 2021.
That was the year, by petition?
It's, 145, Section 1, the legislative purpose and intent. The purpose and intent of this bylaw is to state with emphasis the right to farm accorded to all citizens of the Commonwealth. Oh, is this the state law? No, it's adopted by the town meeting of Wellfleet.
So that is the right
It
to
is a-
farm.
Yeah.
Boy, I have an out-of-date.
Is what you read farm, family, agricultural definition? What's the definition you read? Farm, family?
The definition that I read was, so that was marine aquaculture. That was the
Farm, family,
definition that I
Farm,
read.
farm family, I read.
But then there's also.
Marine aquaculture.
I have it.
Yeah, you do. I didn't see it either. 235.11, page 235.11.
I'm looking for definition.
That's marine aquaculture.
Yep.
An activity related to the processing,
right at the
harvesting,
bottom. I missed
procurement,
it, too.
sale, or handling of fish, shellfish, or other water-related foodstuffs or products.
But I thought I did remember that when Mike passed that bylaw, that he included the right to farm.
Well, I'm looking at our zoning definitions. There's farm commercial and farm family agricultural. And neither one of them specifically mentions anything about aquaculture. The farm family agriculture is a little bit more general. It just says used for the raising of agricultural products for home consumption or sale. But the farm commercial specifically says agricultural products, livestock, poultry, and dairy products. And
Yeah, but farm family also allows it at the residence.
yeah.
So the last sentence is the most important.
Yeah, so then, under our assumptions, if we were to move marine aquaculture to the farm use table and make it permissible in all zones, then we would also be making the assumption that it's a family farm.
Yeah, so you could amend those definitions too, to say, to include marine aquaculture, and then you just go back.
Yeah.
But what was, when you read on 21, the zoning bylaw, what was the, he must have had a number in there that where he was putting it.
My phone, whatever website I'm on, keeps jumping around.
We can look it up. I mean, we can look it up. Find out.
But it would be,
We can look it up, but, I mean, our zoning bylaw is our zoning bylaw. So I don't care if you go on ChatGPT or whatever you go on, our
Oh,
zoning.
no, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. We can look
yeah.
it up. We can look at
No
town meeting,
offense, I don't mean to
the vote.
be that blunt,
Right.
but.
No, but we can look at the town meeting vote in
Yep.
21 that Mike got passed,
Yeah, yep.
see if it included farming, and where did that definition go?
Well, I will,
Oh, wait a minute.
I will check with
I think it
Jen
went in the
Conjo.
I think it went in the charter.
Oh, really?
So-
I think it went in the charter.
it was
Fund on me.
February 26, 2021.
Yeah, I think it went in the
was
charter.
article number 40.
For some reason, for crazy reason, I think that's where it went. Either general bylaws or charter.
Out of date
No, it went in the general bylaws.
copy of
Let me
everything.
think. It's getting late. What do you want to do?
Thank you, Al.
Huh? Done?
No, I appreciate this. I mean, this is,
This is how it gets done, right?
it is, yep.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If you did put aquaculture within the farm family, in the use chart, it's permitted everywhere,
Yes.
so it does it.
Yeah.
Just add it
That's
to
what we were
there, and
saying.
we don't have to change the use charts.
Right, so it's rewriting that definition.
No.
Farm
No, because that definition doesn't have any particular language that would exclude marine aquaculture. It would be the farm commercial that has particular language and would need rewriting. So if we moved marine aquaculture to the farm uses table and granted it in all zones, then the assumption would just be that it was a farm family, and it was existing under that definition.
Through the chair,
Yes.
I understand where Al is going, and I will look at that
Thank
and
you.
come up with a draft if you are all okay with that.
Yes. Excellent. What we, if you can some, because it is already 9:30. We need to look at, from what you're saying or feeling is, take the service trade business 3 sections and clarify them and put them into maybe one with some categories?
That's where I started. I started with subcategories of 1, home occupations.
Mhm.
But I met with Beth, and we decided not to do that.
But, well, okay, so what was your feeling on it? Still keep, but changing the service trade business and service trade home business, but clarify the definitions better?
I think we need to clarify the definitions, first and foremost. Can I take that? I don't, when Beth and I met, I don't know that we actually need the service trade business definition, which I think is what we agreed upon, but I think there's some redundancy here, and I think we can streamline it. So again, what I would propose is taking into consideration what you all have suggested, getting a draft to each of you through Chulani, and then if each of you reach out to Chulani on an individual basis, so we don't violate open meeting law, give your commentary, don't respond in a group, just do it individually to Chulani, and then we can go from there, and then I will have a draft for our next meeting, if that's okay with you, Jerry.
We've done that in the past, and it gets confusing as hell. So it's when you prepare it, and Chulani sends it out, then it would go on the next agenda item. That's when that's what seems to have worked better is take that information and do it at the meeting, because all of a sudden, you've gotten 7 people funneling different changes, they're overlapping, and it's like, where am I going here? Whereas when we discuss it here, it works out a lot better.
I think Beth is just asking for some feedback as to, as an individual reading it, if we have any feedback to offer.
Yeah,
Is that what you're asking?
Before it comes to the group.
yeah.
Yep.
You're not
Then that's
asking for
okay.
line by line.
Yeah.
You're not asking
no.
for changes or anything of that, just some feedback.
Yeah.
On an individual,
Suggestions.
one by one,
Right,
not
right,
as a
not a
group.
group.
Yes.
All right, then that's
And-
okay.
Great.
And though the more I look at the zoning bylaws, the more refreshing I see it needs all over the place. But we have been
I'm aware of it.
focusing on a couple of particular issues tonight. So I think if we focus on that and make some headway, then that might be wise, rather than opening more cans of worms before we have finished off the first.
That can's going to be opened wide when it's opened. So I think we're making the steps in the right direction as they come up.
Remember in the 80s, the bylaws book was a
Yeah.
little 7 by 8 book, with a pamphlet.
We should go
Yes,
back
I
to that.
do. I still got all those, I got one.
And also, just as an insight to the board who'll be looking at this, if we're looking at definitions, you have to be looking at the definitions as well as the use tables. And you need to probably get some Post-it notes and get those pages easily tabbed off, because you really do need to be flipping back and forth between
That's
the
right.
tables and the definitions.
That's right.
To get an understanding of what's going on.
And then you need to look at the bylaw.
And of course, Justin, Victor was not bashful about sending over, Jerry, look at something, or Chair, look at something. If you've got any input, whether it's what we discussed tonight or something that you're running into that seems to be a little bit unclear, that you'd like to either clear up or get something on, please let us know.
Yeah, I'm sure Beth will call me into her office and,
Yeah, because you're close.
yeah, and have me take a look at anything that's funny, because like Alex says, there's a lot of cleanup where I have to kind of be a crossing guard, and it's hard sometimes when the bylaw, the use tables and things don't jive. Yeah.
Yeah, we propose them, Town of Wellfleet passes them, and then they pass it down to you to enforce, and it's like, okay, none of them had to enforce it, now how do I enforce it?
We got a
Yes.
hand up?
Oh, I didn't even realize there was people in the audience.
Yeah.
Chris Merrill.
Who is it?
Chris Merle.
Hi, Chris. Is he muted? He may just be listening, but his hand is up. Chris?
Yes, can you hear me?
Now I can. Sorry,
Hi,
I didn't see the hand up, Chris.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I came into the meeting a little bit late, but I was just hearing what you guys were talking about the marine aquaculture, and it's probably already been said, but I just wanted to let you know that the USDA and the federal government has brought marine aquaculture under its wing, under agriculture. So I just think what Al was saying and what you guys were talking about is bringing it under the home farming would be the easiest way to protect the marine aquaculture in Wellfleet. And I would hope that you guys would entertain that rather than coming up with a lot of different rules and, kicking it down the road. I think that would be the simplest way to deal with it. So thank you very much. You may have already said that, but I just wanted to chime in. Thank you.
I think that's the road we were going down, and it seemed to be a lot simpler, and as well, put it in all districts. So yes, we're on that wavelength.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
One more question, if you'll allow me.
Absolutely.
Beth, did you produce this? Okay. Bonnie, this was your document? So at the bottom,
Beth
it
Singer.
says-
This is Beth.
Beth, Sonny.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
Beth. At the bottom, you say, or simplify like churro.
Have you read churros?
Well, but you're saying it, or simplify like churro. Do you mean we should be looking at churros, or,
It's an option.
but we haven't really looked at it?
Have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
So
have
we
all of
had
them.
it at a previous meeting. It was part of a packet.
And if you don't have it, you can ask.
No, I have it from their website. But do you feel you're more comfortable with the changes you're proposing, or do you really want us to go through churros?
No, what I'm saying is, churro simplifies the whole thing with one definition and covers almost everything you can imagine.
Maybe a little too loose.
That's the extreme of what we're doing, which is the other extreme, which is to redo this entire home occupation bylaw. I mean, we've just touched definitions.
Right.
There's a whole bylaw to go through. So I just left that open to the committee, whether you want to
I think
take the easy road or the hard road.
I think it's worth looking at. I'm not sure. I think ours are better, quite frankly, but it is more time consuming. And as you can see, if we couldn't even get through definitions tonight, trying to do the bylaw itself is going to be difficult, to say the least, in my mind, to get it on the October town meeting. But not with that said, yes, a simple definition change of working outside or something like that, that certainly could be put in. And the ADU, state ADU is probably easy enough to put in. But that's, we can talk about that. Minutes?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to accept the minutes from the June 17th, 2026 meeting as they have been published to us.
Any second?
I have a question about the minutes.
Yes.
So, Jelani, I hope I got the whole thing. But at the bottom of page 1, where it says a business activity conducted, at the bottom it says this was seconded by Al Amons. Was there a vote taken, or?
Yeah, on the next page,
Yeah.
on the next page it says discussion.
Oh, okay, I don't have that page either. Okay, sorry. Shalani had to photocopy me a separate set, so maybe you didn't give me that page.
Okay.
All right, I'm sorry then.
No.
If it's there.
So I second.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You seconded.
No, go ahead.
Bonnie seconded. Anyone opposed? Unanimous? Okay. Oh, yes, Bob abstained. And Bob, both Bobs will abstain. Well,
Two
Bobs.
of the three.
Do you prefer Bob or Robert?
Bob is fine.
Okay, thank you.
So, can I make a motion, because there's 3 Bobs, that we all change our name to Bob? It's just going to make life so much easier.
Keep it simple. Bob?
Thanks for the levity.
The second,
You know the Brundage Siteworks concrete crew? Because they do that. It works perfect for them.
Any liaison reports? Any correspondence? Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry, next meeting.
Oh, well, I will say, the community preservation grant round is open. If anyone wants to pass that along to people that they know or whatever, and they're due on October 31st.
Should I be providing a liaison report from the local housing partnership?
You should be if there is one.
If there was a meeting.
If you feel that's necessary and something came up, yes.
What would you define as necessary?
That we find interesting.
All right. Yeah, because I've been to 3 now, and
Okay.
I've actually managed to get myself elected as chair.
What?
Yeah.
You have to go to the restroom.
What happens with a new member coming in? Yeah. They saw you coming.
It's part of the hazing.
Excellent.
I'll provide a liaison's report for the next meeting.
Okay. And I would have certainly, if I was on that board, I would have seconded that motion. All right, meeting on August 5th. Do we want to do one on the 5th and then another one at the end of the month, or do you want to split that month in half for the 19th?
I don't want to volunteer anybody else's time, but it does seem like we have an awful lot to talk about.
I'm fine with 2 meetings. I can go either way.
All right, I'll tell you what. Let's schedule it for the 5th. It's not scheduled here for the 19th, so I don't even know if it's available. So I'll have Chelani check it tomorrow to see if it is available. Let's leave it for the 5th and the 2nd, and then the 3rd meeting as well. And as we get closer, if all of a sudden you find you're too busy or something, just let Chelani know. He will let me know, and I can make the call whether or not to go to the 19th or leave it on the 5th. Yes, Bonnie?
So I guess I have a question for Beth. I mean, because the agenda, because we put several things on the agenda today, and a lot of those involve your doing some research or some drafting. So if we split the August into 2 meetings, do you want to, put like 2 of the things we discussed on the agenda for the 5th and the next 2 for the 19th, or, yeah.
Can't do that if we don't know we're meeting on the 19th.
What?
We don't know that we're meeting.
Through the chair?
Yes.
I do like that idea, but what I will do, if it's okay with the chair and all of you, is consult with Jerry and see where I am with my research and drafting, and then
We'll schedule,
go
we'll
from
schedule,
there.
we're in touch quite often, so I know, she now has Maurice's on her plate as well.
Yes.
With everything else, so consequently, there's only so much she can do. So I'm sure she will let me know if she gets bogged down and what she's got ready for the 5th and what she hasn't got ready. So we do stay in contact, yeah.
Great.
Okay? Any motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Any
Second.
Second? Anyone opposed? I didn't think so. Sorry, it's 10 o'clock, 10 minutes to 10, but thank you very much. Appreciate it. I think
Yeah.
it was great.
Yeah, good meeting.
Bob, nice input. Thank you very much.